Good morning, and happy Easter to you. This is the day after Easter, April 1st of 24. Today we're going to have a brief segment, but I did want to touch on one thing that has gotten a lot of attention just lately. Um, Yesterday, when we were worshiping the resurrection of Jesus Christ, on Easter, and this was, being observed all around the world. President Biden chose this day to pay special homage to the practice of sodomy and to the whole transgender movement. It's a segment of the homosexual movement, and he declared through executive order that there would be that Easter Sunday this year would be a Transgender Day of Visibility. This, if anything is ever overly visible, it is transgenders. And there is probably nothing in Holy Scripture that is more forthright than the condemnation of sodomy. We know that God decided to utterly destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of the outward practice of homosexuality, and we even have one of the very few references by Jesus Christ to something of a violent nature when he said that anyone who misleads one of these littlest one, he's talking about the children, and keeps them from coming to me, it would be better that he have a millstone put around his neck and that he be drowned, thrown into the sea, than to do this to the children. And this is the essence of transgenderism. It has a distinct focus on children. We see it being promoted throughout our public schools, thanks to the Biden Department of Education, which is promoting this pornography in the public schools, and particularly transgenderism, with these transgender story hours where little children are forced to be in the presence of truly frightening looking men who dress up with pseudo feminine garb, sometimes wearing grotesque false breasts of enormous grotesque size, and other things that are just creepy, frightening things that certainly are designed to give little children nightmares for the rest of their lives. The purpose of having these men come in and attempt to create this confused sexuality with children is for the purpose of grooming them. The transgenders come into the schools and they do their readings or whatever, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to acclimate the children to being in the presence of homosexuals and to acclimate them to hearing sexual things being discussed by adults, particularly very bizarre, frightening looking adults. The idea is that if over time you sort of numb the children to where they become more receptive then to homosexual sexual advances by pedophiles. This is the purpose of this whole transgender movement within the public schools. It's the purpose of putting pornographic books in the schools where children can access them. You have these comic books that actually depict in considerable detail the act of sodomy taking place between boys and grown men. And there's been huge battles. It's bizarre that in our once great country, parents have to, struggle to get pornography out of the school libraries. But in any event, um, we now see the President of the United States, Joe Biden, was there in the Oval Office signing an executive order that declared that on Easter Day, the federal government, under his direction, would observe a Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, heaven knows that there's nothing more visible in this world than that tiny, tiny segment of the homosexual population that like to dress up as the opposite sex. Now, one of the terrible tragedies of this whole transgender movement is the surgical sexual mutilation of children. And a very dear friend of mine discovered that her daughter was about to be operated on by one of these monster physicians, and she raised so much Cain that she frightened the hospital staff, and that they had the surgeon in the middle of the surgical operation. He went to answer the phone. I think they were so frightened about what might happen in terms of liability, and she confronted him about her daughter, and he said, look, he said, I've already removed the right breast. What do you want me to do with the left breast? Now, it's almost inconceivable that anyone can do this, but this is being done. This is now being celebrated by the Democrats with this Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, removing the breasts of a girl to make her appear like she's a boy is a horrible, hideous thing, but it is not nearly as bad as what they call a bottom surgery. Giving a mastectomy to a little girl is called a top surgery. Destroying the sexual organs of a little girl or of a little boy is called a bottom surgery. This is a process so hideous that it needn't be described right now, but it is my belief that the sexual mutilation of a child should be considered a crime against nature that should require no explicit criminal statute to enable it to be enforced, and there should be no statute of limitation, and the punishment should range up to execution. If you think of what's happening, there is a reason that a tremendous portion of so-called transgender people attempt suicide. I think it is roughly half of all of them. It's just astronomical. And this is because they get misled by the public schools or whatever. They go out and they do these terrible things to themselves, and then they realize that their lives are destroyed and they can't go back. They've removed their sexual organs. We look back and we say, oh, slavery back 7, 8 generations. This has really caused a lot of problems. I got to tell you, slavery was nothing compared to what's going on with transgenderism. I mean, that was trivial compared to transgenderism. Nobody was out there cutting off the sexual organs of slaves. So this is a hideous thing. It's something that needs to be changed. And I think one of the great shames of our nation is the fact that we have allowed this transgenderism to filter its way into our schools, into our workplaces. Obviously, there is no way that a nation that observed this sort of decadent behavior can survive in the long run. And we can already see the cracks forming in our nation, in our civilization. And so the good news is that it has created a tremendous uproar among the public. And I think that's a hopeful sign. We better fix it because if we don't restore the moral climate of this nation, then the United States will disintegrate. It's that simple. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week.